Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Otis and Gabe podcast. I am Otis, and today I'm going to be doing a free agency, but a free agency special. I'm going to talk about the quarterbacks. Quarterbacks today. A lot of different quarterbacks went a lot of different places. Obviously, the big name, Tom Brady, went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Nick Foles gets traded to Chicago. Marcus Mariota signs with the Raiders. Tannehill gets paid with the Titans, and Philip Rivers goes to the Colts. So I want to go through and discuss what I think are the winners and the losers as well. Teams that I feel like could be better, more improved next season. And so, but we will start with the quarterbacks. So I think it's Tom Brady to the Bucks. Obviously, it's a great move for the Bucks. Bucks are getting greatest quarterback of all time, and with the weapons they have and the coach they have, I think they can be very successful. And I feel like our division, the division NFC South, is going to be one of the best divisions, if not the best division in football, because I feel like you're getting Brady Breeze twice, and you're getting Matt Ryan mixed in there. I think that's a really solid division. Now I'm not knocking on the Panthers, but I don't see the Panthers doing anything yet. I feel like they still have to learn. They have a new coach, new systems, so I feel like they're still getting. They're gonna have to go through a process of change in their organization like they've have, and new head coach. But another quarterback I want to talk about is Nick Foles. Nick Foles is a solid quarterback in this league, and he signed the big deal after being franchise tagged the year before with Philly. He goes to Jacksonville, signs a big contract, and game one gets hurt. So he's out 9 weeks, whatever, and he doesn't really come back. I mean, he does come back, but it kind of was Gardner Minshew kind of took over, and then all of a sudden you see them get rid of him, and they also got rid of a lot of other players, and so I feel and now Chicago has a QB competition in training camp, if there is a training camp, if they hopefully we can get there. I feel like Nick Foles, I get it. You have to give a competition because they drafted Mitchell Trubisky very high, and if you don't let him have a competition, it's wrong just to say that Nick Foles is the definite starter, because you don't know what's happened to Nick Foles these past weeks, months. But I do think in Chicago, it's going to be there's going to be a QB competition, but I also think Nick Foles should win the job. He's a veteran quarterback, and he has a lot of experience. Mind you, he also has a Super Bowl MVP. This guy is a solid quarterback, and if Chicago can just figure out how to get their wide receiver core settled and and upgraded. I think they need to upgrade. I think that's another thing Chicago needs to focus on in this draft is upgrading their receiving core. But if they can do that, I feel like Nick Foles is going to be very successful. Mariota, the Raiders. Now I think the Raiders surprisingly gave Mariota a good bit of money. Now there's two things that tells me. That tells me is they're not bringing him in just to come in for a certain package. It could be, but for me, and the other thing would be is they're having doubts about Derek Carr, which is understandable because Derek Carr he's been okay. He's been great at some times, and he's been pretty bad at some times. So I understand where Gruden's going with bringing in Mariota. Now, I do believe they're going to have a quarterback competition. I think Carr should be worried because you don't go out and sign Marcus Mariota And by the way, they gave him a pretty decent amount of money. And you don't let a guy like that just, come in and maybe sit on the bench and back up a quarterback. I think they're going to give Marcus Mariota an opportunity, and I think that's the best. That's the best thing for them. I definitely think John Gruden's going to give them an opportunity, and who knows? But I do think that quarterback position is up in the air. I believe Derek Carr's job is not fully secure. He's partially secure because he's obviously been there and he knows the system. But I don't believe he's fully secure. And also, I've already talked about it in my first pre-agent video. Tannehill re-signs with the Titans. He got his money. Good for him. Hopefully for them, that they're hoping for is that Tannehill, he's trying to revamp his career. He's trying to turn his career around, and he had a pretty good year towards the end last year. And so, if they think he's the guy, they paid him, and so it'll be what it'll be. I'm curious to see what happens there in Tennessee this year. Phillip Rivers goes to the Colts. I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised because I believe the Colts were either in on Tom Brady or in on Phillip Rivers, and I feel like Phillip Rivers, listen, Tom Brady is the GOAT, and the fact that they missed out on him. Well, what I've heard is that Tom Brady and his group were wanting to go to Indy. But Indy goes out and signs Phillip Rivers. So for me, I have to ask the question: Does Indy believe Phillip Rivers is better than Tom Brady? Now, to answer that question, I feel like in some ways Phillip Rivers obviously is younger than Tom Brady. He probably has a couple more years than Tom Brady in him, and I feel, they gave him a 1-year deal. So the thing is, if they don't like Phillip Rivers, and if he plays really bad this year, they're going to let him go, or they're going to cut him. And they got Jacoby Brissett, who played pretty well, not phenomenal, but played pretty well for the Colts last season. So they're not losing a ton, but I feel like Phillip Rivers could be an interesting fit. I feel like the Colts pick up Phillip Rivers because they wanted a more experienced veteran to come in and kind of help them get back on the right track, because Andrew Luck retiring shocked us all, and obviously it shocked the Colts a ton. And I feel like now that they don't have Andrew Luck, who was highly drafted, and they thought the world of him, then they have to figure out how to get the quarterback position solidified for this year. And then I think they have to move forward and say, okay, when Phillip Rivers is retired, or when he's done, or if he's not good, we can just go back to Jacoby Brissett. And I feel like that's a good move for them. And we'll have to see. How is Phillip Rivers going to do? We don't know, but we'll have to see. And so those are the top QB moves. I want to talk about my teams that are going to be most surprising and have had the best offseason, my winners and losers. I've talked about it a little bit in my first free agency video, but I want to talk about it now. I think there's two teams one team I think is going to be more improved. Really, I think they're going to be better next year. I think Miami is going to be better next year. I think the quarterback position obviously is huge for them, and if they can hit a home run with their draft picks and draft the right quarterback, whether it's Herbert, Tua, Love, or they trade up and get Burrow, they have to find the guy. And obviously Fitzpatrick is great, he's not great, but he keeps the position solid for maybe a couple games. But I think they have to find the right rookie. They have to find the right guy who can get the job done in the future. And so, but I do think Miami has had one of the best off seasons out of any team. They've brought in a lot of good players, and it's just can they put it all together, and can they find the right quarterback? That's important for me. I feel like the Browns as well. The Browns have had a pretty good offseason. I mean, they bring in a solid right tackle in Jack Conklin, and they bring in a very good tight end, Austin Hooper, to go along with Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. They still have Chubb, and they still have Baker. I think they're going to probably go offensive line in the drafts, but they've brought in good pieces, and it's just that division is going to be a good division next year. I think it's going to be surprising who comes out with that, but obviously the Ravens right now are my true number one to come out of that division. I think what the Ravens did on defense this offseason is really good and really helpful. They really solidified their defensive line, bringing in Calais Campbell, and they kept Marcus Peters around, and they've brought in a couple other corners to kind of help, veteran corners to kind of help keep the veteran mentality in their defense. And obviously they have Earl Thomas back there deep in the secondary. That defense is going to be scary next year. They're going to be really good. And so those two teams for me are two big teams that I think are going to improve greatly next year. I want to talk about the couple of trades that went down later in free agency that I might have missed. Darius Slay goes to Philadelphia. I want to know what Darius Slay and D-Hop both get traded. DeAndre Hopkins obviously goes to Arizona in a trade I think was really bad. I think the Texans really needed to figure out what they were doing, and I don't think they handled the situation well with DeAndre Hopkins, and that's why he's not in their organization anymore. Darius Slay, though, to the Eagles, for me, that's a great trade for the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles they only gave up a third and a fifth for a top 15 corner in this league. A guy, and they also paid him. They paid him well. So, I think that move will help. I also think the Cardinals are going to now have a very good top 3 receiver in the league with a young quarterback. So you're helping your young quarterback. So I think those two teams are also going in the right direction, Arizona and Philadelphia, as far as trying to get better. I do want to talk about one team in particular, though. The Houston Texans have made a ridiculous amount of moves since August 31st. Since August 31st, when Bill O'Brien took over as partial GM, well, really GM role, they've gotten rid of, I believe it is 12 to 15 players. No, 12 to 15, 12 picks or players for, 15 or so picks or players. And some of those include bringing in Laramie Tunsil from a big trade with Miami, and they shipped off multiple first-round picks in that trade. They got rid of DeAndre Hopkins. They got rid of Jadeveon Clowney. And they got rid of a bunch of other picks that I think are going to be valuable for them in the future. I think Bill O'Brien has made interesting moves. And so here's the list from Field Yates. 12 The Texans, here's the official tweet from Field Yates. Since August 31st, the Texans have traded away 12 players or picks and acquired 15 players or picks. So here's who they've traded. They traded away DeAndre Hopkins, Jadeveon Clowney, first round pick in 2020, first round pick in 2021, second round pick in 2020 and in 2021, a third round pick in 2020, a fourth round pick in 2020, a corner, Julian Davenport, and Martinez Rankins, and a sixth round pick in 2020. All to acquire. They've also traded for Brandon Cooks. They traded a second round pick, which they acquired from the Arizona Cardinals, for Brandon Cooks. In another move where I believe, another questionable move that I think you have to scratch your head on and say, are they trying to have Brandon Cooks as a replacement for DeAndre Hopkins? So that's another concerning move. Well, I don't think it's concerning, but I feel like Bill O'Brien is doing some things that I don't think are very beneficial. But they have brought in. So here's what they've brought in. They brought in Laramie Tunsil. They brought in Brandon Cooks. They brought in David Johnson, Kenny Stills, Barkevius Mingo, Jacob Barton, Jaron Conley, Carlos Hyde. They brought in a second round pick, a third round pick, a fourth round pick, Keon Crossan, a corner, two fourth round picks in the future, and a sixth round pick in the future. I don't know. You can give me your thoughts if you want to hit me up, give me your thoughts. I think they've done a lot of things that you have to wonder why. The DeAndre Hopkins trade is a big one. I don't understand that. I haven't, and I probably won't, because I don't know. I think also bringing in Brandon Cooks is good. It's not great. They got rid of a second round pick, which to me, in this draft class, the receivers are ridiculously good. And there's a lot of them. So to me, that second round pick can very well be a rookie who comes in and maybe starts at the number 3 receiver spot. So, I don't know. Those are some of the big moves. They also came out with the all-decade team. Another quick thing I wanted to talk about. So, Brady, in the all-decade team for 2010s. So, Brady and Rodgers are the 2 quarterbacks. Now, here's a question I want to ask you. How do you feel about them leaving out Drew Brees? Now, I might get a lot of knock for this, but I don't know. I like Aaron Rodgers a lot. He's won his MVPs. He's won a Super Bowl. But I don't know. I think Drew Brees should definitely. This is definitely something that I will try, and when I get Gabe on the show, I will definitely I will ask him about, because I don't know. I like Drew Brees. I play him. My team plays him twice a year. I think Drew Brees is a very good quarterback. I think Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. So I think it must have been very difficult to pick between Rodgers and Brees. Now, I might be wrong. You can let me know that I'm wrong, but I think that's a difficult pick. It really is. And there's a bunch of other really good players that made it, and I think they did. The rest of the list is pretty good. I also want to mention that Christian McCaffrey, as of today, April 13th, has become the highest paid highest paid running back in the NFL. He got a 4-year extension at $16 million. So that's pretty good. Now, I know I slipped up saying receiver, but really, the guy can do it all. I think he's a phenomenal piece to a new offense that Matt Rule's going to bring in, whatever he brings in. And I feel like them giving him an extension is well deserved. Well deserved. Christian McCaffrey has proven he can do it all. He can be a receiver, he can be a running back, and he can also be a returner. So I feel like Carolina is doing the right thing. The money is there. They're going to give it to him now. They're not going to wait. Good for them. He's going to be a valuable part of their future, and I feel like they're going to get a lot more from him in the years to come. So that's what I got today. I will be back with another video on finishing up my mock draft. The picks 22 to 32. And so that's all I got today. Thanks so much.